Hey, my name is Drew, founder of Husband Material, where I help men outgrow porn. Today, I'm answering the question, how much does she need to know? In other words, how much does a significant other need to know about your relationship with porn? Specifically, it could be your girlfriend, your fiancée, your wife, or even someone you would like to be in a relationship with. We are going to talk about each of those stages of relationship, what level of detail should be shared, how to start those conversations, and also answering your questions along the way. This episode is for single men who want to be in a relationship and are not sure if they should be dating or how much they should share with someone they want to be with. It's also for men who are dating or engaged to be married, preparing for lifelong love. And this is for men who are married, especially for men who want to help their wives heal from what they have done. Before I share anything else about this topic, there's one insight that is so important, and that is always tell the truth. No matter how much you choose to share or how much you choose to withhold, always tell the truth. Lying is not loving. Deception is never okay. There may be times when it's appropriate to not share certain things, but it's never appropriate to share false information, no matter who it is. Whether it's your girlfriend or your fiance or your wife, we need to be committed to telling the truth. Now, as you do that, how much do you need to say? How much does she need to know? Well, it depends on who she is. If you are not dating someone, but you have a crush on that person, on your first date, this person does not need to know about your relationship with porn. That actually might be oversharing. It might kill the relationship before it can ever start. That is, unless she asks. If you're dating somebody who specifically asks you about the area of sexuality, or if you have a history with porn, then it's your responsibility to answer honestly. And you might even say something like, I don't really feel comfortable answering that question. Or there's a part of me that wants to share, and there's a part of me that feels cautious. So that's honesty and telling the truth, even without answering the question. That's one example of being able to share in an appropriate way without disclosing as much as you could disclose, because you're not sure what they're ready to handle. But you're being honest about what you're not sharing, and that's really important too. If you've gone on a few dates with someone and you're thinking about making things official, when you define the relationship and decide, okay, we are now boyfriend and girlfriend, I think it's important for her to know something about your journey, to know something about your brokenness, and for you to know something about her as well. For example, if she just broke up with someone else a month before she started dating you, don't you think you would want to know that? That would be kind of important. Even if it's just the level of detail for her to say, I was in a recent relationship that ended badly. You don't have to know all the details necessarily, but you do need to know something about it. And in the same way, if porn has a relationship with you or has had a relationship with you, it might be helpful to tell her that you have a history of sexual brokenness too, or that you are on a journey of healing and recovery. You might want to share that porn has been a part of your story, or you might not at that point be incremental. You don't need to share everything. It's also not wise to hide or to lie at any point. Some of you guys might be asking, should I even be dating anyone? Does porn disqualify me from being in a relationship? And I have a really great little phrase for you to remember. If you are thinking about getting into a relationship with somebody and you're struggling with porn, you don't need perfection, you need direction. I would rather trust someone with direction to date my daughter than someone with perfection. If there's a guy who has whatever you think of as perfect freedom from porn, like he's been free for 3 years, but he's plateaued, he's not growing, he's not continuing to heal in his journey, his emotional maturity has flatlined and he's kind of okay. Maybe he's done a lot of the surface level strategies of sexual accountability and internet filters, but his heart is not healing. I don't trust that guy as much as the one who's actively struggling, but he has direction. The direction of healing, growing, reading books, taking courses, getting professional help, being part of a really healthy group. Those are the things that I can trust even more than the surface level symptom of sexual sobriety. So if you're thinking, should I be dating someone? You don't need perfection. You need direction. And let's be real. No one has perfection in our hearts, in our minds, in our health and our maturity. We are all growing. We are all on this journey of freedom. The person who I trust is the one who has direction, even if they don't have perfection. And that's just for dating someone. When you want to marry someone, a little bit more is required than just direction. But in general, I think those are some good questions to ask yourself. Like, do I have direction? Do I have momentum? What am I actually doing to heal? Am I seeing progress? If you have direction, then in my mind, you're ready to date. You might not be ready to marry someone, but you're ready to start that journey. Okay, before I continue, what questions do you have about how much you should share with somebody who you would hope to be in a relationship with? When it comes to unwanted sexual attraction or same-sex attraction, should you reveal that before being someone's boyfriend or girlfriend? I think that level of detail is not necessary until you're beginning to make a commitment to each other. And it doesn't necessarily need to come right at the beginning of being boyfriend or girlfriend, but it definitely needs to come before getting engaged to be married. Talking about your specific sexual attractions is extremely vulnerable. And as you share those details, there is an emotional intimacy that comes with that. Many of you guys have experienced that in a husband material small group. When we get radically honest about the things that specifically appeal to us, it's extremely vulnerable. You can get hurt or you can get healed through some of those sharing experiences. When you go that deep with someone too early in the dating relationship, it's not healthy. If you only have a low level of commitment, but a high level of vulnerability, you're setting yourself up for heartache. And I think it's moving too fast, personally. If you are dating someone who is your girlfriend, what should you do as the dating relationship progresses? My best advice is to take it slow. Slow everything down. I did not do this in my first dating relationship. I proposed marriage after 8 weeks. Yikes. That is a part of my story I'm not proud of. At the same time, I learned a lot. And I learned and relearned this principle in life that it is so much easier to speed up than to slow down. It is so much easier to loosen a boundary than to have a boundary be too loose and to tighten it. Whether it's physical boundaries or emotional boundaries, you want to take it slow. So when it comes to physical boundaries in dating, many of us are aware that it's really wise and healthy to have more boundaries at the beginning. And then as time goes on, you can wisely let some of those boundaries down. Not completely, but incrementally. Well, the same is true emotionally. And when you're talking about sharing something as deep as your relationship with pornography, that is extremely emotionally vulnerable. And at the beginning stages of a relationship, before there's a lot of commitment, it might not be appropriate to share that level of emotional intimacy with someone who you've only known for a short amount of time. That's why it's so important to take it slow. And that's what I would recommend to those who are dating, who are not yet engaged to be married. Be incremental. Be intentional, not impulsive with the way you share this. A little at a time. You probably want to start out with something more generic when you're talking with a girlfriend, such as, I've experienced a lot of sexual brokenness, or unwanted sexual behavior or porn has been a part of my story. And as you grow in emotional intimacy, then you can share a little bit more. Some of you guys might be wondering, at what point do I need to be completely transparent? At what point do I need to tell her everything? At the very latest, you need to tell her before you ask her to marry you. Before another person can make a lifelong commitment to you, which is what marriage is, she needs to know exactly what she is signing up for. One really, really wise thing you can do is get pre-engagement counseling. Most people who get counseling before they get married get premarital counseling when they're already engaged. And that can be really helpful. That could be awesome. It's even better if you can get that kind of counseling before you get engaged, because that allows you to determine whether or not this is a good enough fit to move forward. As soon as you ask someone to marry you and she says yes, at that point and onward, you are planning an event. You're getting ready to make a covenant. And so in the premarital counseling process, you're kind of already assuming that you guys are going to do this. But guess what? That may or may not be a good idea, especially if porn is still part of your life. If porn still has a relationship with you and you still have a relationship with porn, then you really need to do some wrestling and soul searching before asking her to marry you. And if you've already asked her to marry you and she's already said yes, then you have to have some tough conversations. I speak about this from experience. Rebecca and I got free pre-engagement counseling from an older couple we knew through Wheaton College, and they challenged us. There was an assignment they gave to us saying, I want you to reveal all the reasons why the other person might not want to marry you. That assignment wrecked me in the best way. I opened up to Rebecca. She opened up to me. And that kind of full disclosure is incredibly important when someone is deciding whether or not they're going to commit to spending the rest of their life with you. And it's equally important for you to know what you are signing up for and what you are getting yourself into by marrying them. It's right, it's good, and it's fair to get pre-engagement counseling and to ask those tough questions before putting a ring on anybody's finger. While you're dating, are there certain details that would be unhelpful to share? Probably, but that's for her to decide, not you. You can start by saying generically, here's what I've been struggling with in general. Would it be helpful for you to have more details? Here's one way that I worded it during pre-engagement counseling. I told Rebecca, I have certain sexual fantasies and fetishes that I haven't told you about. We talked about it. I told her I didn't think it would be helpful for her to know the specifics because as we move toward marriage, I don't want her to have these insecurities and images in her head while we're uniting to each other for the first time. She decided that she was okay with that, partially because I already had 10 months without porn at that point. Plus I was taking classes, I had a weekly support group, and she had a lot of confidence that she could trust me. So with that as a foundation, she was okay with not knowing some of the details until after we were married. But again, I didn't just hide from her. I said, hey, there's some stuff I haven't told you about, so that she could know, in general, what she didn't know. And when it came to my behavior, there was a lot that she could trust. For those of you guys who are engaged to be married, should I tell her every single time I use porn? I've wrestled with this question. I've read about it a lot. And I've come to this decision. If you're engaged or married, absolutely yes, you should tell her. She deserves to know. How you tell her and when you tell her is adjustable. And it depends on what she wants. Most women want to know as soon as possible, within 24 hours. However, some may prefer to have a weekly check-in so they don't get blindsided during the week. Some may prefer a text as soon as it happens. Some may prefer to wait and have a face-to-face conversation. Regardless, it's her decision. And the reason why she deserves to know is because acting out sexually with porn is virtually identical to acting out with another person sexually in the impact that it has on a partner. I'm drawing this from a 2012 study done by Rob Weiss and a few others that found that what does the most damage in a relationship impacted by porn is not actually the sexual acting out behavior, it's the lying and the deception. It's the breaking of trust. That's the most damaging thing. And that happens whether it's with porn or with another person in real life. I mean, porn is real life. It is another person. It's mediated digitally, yet it amounts to cheating. It amounts to infidelity. And so if she deserves to know if you're cheating on her, then she deserves to know if you're using porn in the relationship. It's a sexual act without her consent. And if you have that level of commitment, of engagement, or marriage, then she deserves to know. I received a really good question. What if she doesn't want to know? What if she would prefer to have you keep those moments to yourself? Best thing you can do in that situation is to find out why. Get curious and ask with her, can you tell me more about that? Why do you not want to know if I'm cheating on you? Why do you not want to know if I'm using porn? There could be some reasons to it related to her story. If there's a specific reason that she doesn't want to know every single time it happens, then find out what that is. In general, my best advice is something I learned from Dr. Eddie Caparucci: walk into the fire. And that means even if it seems like there's nothing wrong, even if it seems like she's fine, even if it seems like this stuff is not affecting her, check in, proactively say, hey, I know it's been a while since we've talked about this, but I wanted to check in and see how you're feeling in regards to my relationship with porn. Even if you haven't done anything that needs to be reported, when you can establish a pattern of being honest, even if there's nothing wrong, that builds trust. On the other hand, if she really doesn't want to know because she's avoiding or ignoring, then that actually might be a warning sign that there's some deeper dynamics going on here. And maybe you need to deal with those to find out if moving forward with marriage is a good idea. Because if you're engaged to someone who doesn't want to know when you've been unfaithful to them, to me, that doesn't feel right. Seems like something's off there. For those of you guys who are engaged, asking, when am I ready to get married? Not just date, but when am I ready to get married? The answer is when you have a proven track record of freedom from porn that she can trust. Some say 6 months without porn is enough. Some say 1 year without porn is enough. You need to find out what is enough for her. You can ask her, what amount of time without porn would allow you to feel confident about marrying me? And sobriety is not enough. You also need to know what other measurements or what other indicators would be helpful for you in terms of other habits, in terms of style of relating, in terms of the qualities that make you husband material. What does she want to see from you that will give her confidence that she will not have to worry about you breaking your wedding vows? If you're dating or engaged, but continuing to use porn regularly, even once a month, you're not ready yet. It pains me to say that, but it's not fair to her to continue moving toward marriage when you're continuing to move toward porn. There needs to be a boundary. She needs to be able to say, if nothing changes by this time, or if you act out in these certain ways, then we need to break up. She needs to be able to have a boundary, and if that boundary is crossed, then it's time to delay the wedding or to break up. And actually, I think you should have a boundary too. You should have a boundary if you're engaged to be married to say, if I do this and this and this, then we'll need to break up. And if you cross that boundary, then you need to have the courage to keep it, to enforce it. Ultimately, she should be the one who gets the final say on what that boundary is. Because when you get married, it doesn't make everything better. I wish it did. But marriage is not the solution to sexual brokenness. Marriage extends the impact of our sexual brokenness because now another person has to suffer from the consequences of our behavior. So it actually makes a bigger mess. And as heartbreaking as it is, you may need to delay or cancel a wedding in order to continue to heal and grow and hopefully get to a place where you are ready. If you're engaged to someone who is not sure if they should marry you, or if you're dating someone who's not sure if she wants to move toward marriage, she should not have to figure that out on her own. There is a deep injustice in the porn recovery world where those who are actively struggling with unwanted behavior get the resources, get the support, get the professional help, while their partners get the scraps. And sometimes that's because they don't even know what they don't know. Our job is to make sure that our partners get just as much support as we are getting, especially if they are fiancés or wives. So, that's some tough stuff. I hope you know that I share this in love, and I believe that sometimes a breakup is the best thing you can do. As hard as it is to say, your girlfriend or your fiance may or may not be a good fit to be your wife. You may or may not be a good fit to be the boyfriend or the husband that she deserves and she needs, or at least not yet. For you to be that man, for you to be husband material, you and she need to have confidence that when you take those wedding vows, you can keep them. Here's a question from a man who's engaged. He's saying, I'm worried that my fiance isn't fully realizing or expressing the pain that I think I must be causing her. How can I have a conversation about this with her? Or am I looking for a problem where there isn't any? Well, if you are using porn and introducing that into your life, and your life is now intertwined with her life, then yes, there is a problem. And yes, it is affecting her. Whether or not she understands that or experiences that, it's a problem. And she might not realize it until years later. But how can you have a conversation about this with her? Does she believe that porn amounts to cheating on her? Is she okay with that in a relationship? Victor says, before marriage, I disclosed my issues in general and was willing and asked if she wanted to know in details. She declined the details, not understanding the extent of it. Later in life, when she learned full information, she felt betrayed, regretted saying yes, and was very angry with me. Nothing can be changed for me now, But now I would go into details even if I spook her. Drastic, scary, detrimental, but necessary risk. Again, if you're not sharing certain details with her, it's probably wise to at least tell her what category those details are in. For example, you might say, I haven't told you everything that happened to me when I was a boy related to sexual abuse. You might say, I haven't told you all the details of my specific arousal template and what turns me on. You might say, I haven't told you all the details of the specific ways in which I've acted out in the past. So I think, especially when you're preparing for marriage, especially if you're engaged, you need to be as honest as possible while being sensitive to what she needs to set her up for making an informed decision. Tim says, I sure wish I had heard this webcast 30 years ago. It would have helped me and my wife. I am thanking God that you younger guys are here. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, younger guys, for listening. And for you older guys, I hope that this not only encourages you for your own life, I hope it also gives you some wisdom and some helpful ideas that you can share with younger guys who are coming to you with their questions about dating and marriage. Being able to be completely honest and transparent before you get engaged is so important, not only from a standpoint of integrity, also from a standpoint of logistics and dealing with all the practical details of like setting up a wedding. I don't know about you guys, but for me, being engaged was really stressful. It was so difficult to be working and then also being a student and then also trying to write a book and then being in this relationship, planning a wedding, getting ready to move, trying to find new jobs. Like, engagement is stressful. And if you add in some of these deep, vulnerable conversations about whether or not marriage is even a good idea due to the sexual struggles that you're having, it's just overwhelming, and it's a recipe for relapse, frankly. So if you can get some of those conversations out of the way before you've agreed to marry each other, that's just going to be better for everybody. For those of you who are engaged, I challenge you to pause, to slow down, to breathe, and to make sure that when you enter marriage, or if you enter marriage, that you're doing it with the utmost integrity. Because once you get married, it gets messier. And for you guys who are married, you know what I'm talking about. So let's talk about marriage. Should I tell my wife everything? Yes. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to share with her because I don't want to hurt her even more. The reality is, you've already hurt her. She might not know it yet. But when you choose disclosure rather than deception, you're doing the right thing. You're not hurting her more. You're giving her the knowledge that she is being hurt. But in order to do that well, I highly recommend a therapeutic full disclosure, which means that you're not just doing this on your own. You have someone supporting you, you have someone supporting her, and you have someone overseeing this process of telling her the truth. Because when you're married, there are actually 3 healings that need to happen. You need to heal, she needs to heal, and the relationship needs to heal. And all 3 of those healings are best done with professional support. Now, at Husband Material, we actually don't do all 3 of those things. We are focused almost exclusively on individual healing and growth for men. Although we do have a few coaches who help couples heal as well. I've got some links in the show notes that can help you learn more about therapeutic full disclosure, what it looks like, some places where you might be able to do it. But the point is this: she deserves to know, and she deserves to get what she needs in order to internalize that information, grieve, figure out what she wants, set boundaries, and make a decision about moving forward with you or not, and what she needs from you. So, yes, you should tell her everything. And make sure that she has support. Because here's what happens. When you tell the whole truth about your relationship with porn and sexual brokenness and unwanted sexual behavior, you will be offloading a huge burden of secrecy and hiding and shame. And that can feel really good. But the reality is, she is going to feel absolutely crushed and devastated by that same burden that you are offloading. It is now being experienced by her. It was already on her, but now she's feeling it. And to offload that burden without having a structure in place is quite cruel. Some of you guys have asked, especially at the recent conference, what if my wife doesn't want to heal? And this question is the same for girlfriends and fiancés. What if she doesn't want to heal? Unfortunately, you can't teach someone what they don't want to learn. You can't and should not force her to do anything. And even if she does engage in the healing process, you can't control the outcome. But here's what you can do. Number one, you can stop cheating on her with porn or other inappropriate sexual activity and pursue the healing and freedom required to be able to do that. And number two, you can relate to her with curiosity, compassion, kindness, connection, and the courage to tell the truth. If she's open to getting help, if she's open to healing, there are more resources than ever for partners to heal. And I am including a link to a new document that I've created together with Doug Carpenter and some other members of our leadership team called Resources for Partners of Husband Material Men. It has a ton of support groups, professionals, websites, content, communities, courses. We've put together a really comprehensive list of some of the amazing resources, both online and in person, to help partners heal. Many of you guys have asked, okay, where's the version of husband material for women? Like, where's the community? Where's the course? Where's the coaching? Where's the trauma-informed amazingness that we have here for women? And we've created a document, and you can find the link to that in the show notes. Should my wife or girlfriend be my accountability partner? No, it is not her job to help you stop cheating on her with porn or anything else. That's not fair to her. However, she does need, and you do need, others that you can go to for conversation and compassion when you need it, and when she needs it. Eric says, my wife has expressed the desire to be the first to know whenever I act out. How can I do that without turning her into an accountability relationship? So typically what people mean by an accountability partner is someone who is not only receiving information, but responsible for checking in with you. Like, hey, how are you doing with this? Someone who's providing you with support and challenge to actually help you get some momentum and traction. And that's not her job. She should never feel like her performance in relating to you has anything to do with your acting out, because it has nothing to do with her. If she's in a position where she feels like how well she supports you or how much she's checking in on you is affecting the likelihood that you'll act out, then that's not right. It's different for you to just be transparent and disclosing things with her. But when there's an accountability partner, typically that person has some responsibility to you. It's not just your responsibility to them. So there you have it. How much does she need to know? If you would like to see our document on resources for partners of husband material men, please go down to the link in the show notes that will be shared in the final recording. And always remember, you are God's beloved son, and you he is well pleased.